Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Bonetown Podcast. Today is episode 3, and my special guest for today is Ogechi Ukazu. She is a trombonist, music educator, composer, and conductor. And I hope you enjoy this episode. We have our first sponsored ad today by Gooseworks. Gooseworks are selling and branding customized face masks with your logo on them. They have two colors, black and navy, and they're all double fabric. They help reduce the likelihood of spreading. All fabric touching the skin area is 40% recycled polyester, 30% recycled cotton, 30% cotton. This mask does not replace the N95 mask, which is used in the medical setting. If you're interested in getting customized logos on your face mask, please contact Gooseworks at 281-685-4076, or you can email him at info@gooseworks.com. So as far as conducting goes, how long have you been at UT? Just like recently, correct?
It's a similar sort of atmosphere, like a lot of like just really smart, just go get them. Like I'm happy to be here, people working their butts off to get better at whatever they're there to get better at. Just frenetic energy. There's always something going on, and it's good. It's challenging at times because when you get a lot of people, a lot of really intelligent, highly opinionated, really smart, highly artistic people together, I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
It can sometimes run into some walls, but we always get through them, and I mean that's part of the battle, right? Like figuring stuff out and so. Anyways, my time at UT so far has been really great, and the next level for me is like after I get this terminal degree at UT, is to teach college and like start another kind of cycle, like close another circle, if you will, and start teaching teachers to go out, be the future music educators, so.
Yeah. What made you want to become a teacher? Just was there something in like you just felt like I want to be a music educator, or was it just something that was just kind of brought to your attention about like, hey, you'd be a good teacher?
It's interesting because when you like realize that people do something for a living, you're like, oh, I could do that for a living. Like I can make money doing that. And so like I really first started thinking that about my band director in middle school. And then my band directors in high school, like, oh yeah, they get paid to be here, to do this. So I was like, yeah, I think I could do that. I've always been, and here's the real tea. I actually started out as an engineering major because I'm Nigerian and like that's the thing you have to do, like be a doctor, lawyer, engineer. And my parents were like, you can't make money in music,
Yeah.
That's just a dirty myth. Like that's just a lie. But I mean, they didn't know any better. I mean, most of the people that they had known that had immigrated here from Nigeria, like that's what they were doing, doctor, lawyer, engineer. And so when I realized very quickly after the first semester of studying engineering, I was like, that's not going to work. It was just, and this is no shade on like anybody who would happen to be listening to this as an engineer. Like that's just not. It doesn't work for my personality. I'm very much a people person, and of course I love music, and so marrying those two together really just kind of and I love teaching. I love breaking down concepts, explaining things, and just like wrestling with concepts and ideas with people. So that is the thing that really like kind of set me that would be the route for me to go.
Yeah. So so that's cool that you kind of went against the grain as far as like, what, just like, what everybody, like, I guess in the family or what typically would happen. And it's tough to, to go against the grain sometimes, you know what I mean? Because there's a lot of, there's a lot of gambling in it, I guess you could say. There's, you want to go and just do something that no one's done before. And of course, everybody knows that, music is not the money maker. But but it's fun. Everybody's heard the suffer story where, we all quit our jobs to do this full time. And it's tough, but it's cool to be able to go and do something that you love doing, that you're passionate about, with any kind of, that can go with anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be music. It could just be whatever hobby. And that's cool that you did that. But so yesterday or the other day when we were video checking and everything, let's get back into that conversation because man, we were on fire that day.
I was just, it was like a weird way how I got to talk to Jordan Donald. And I was playing who he is. He's like he said, he's an experienced saxophone player. But I mean, this guy has played with everybody. He was just recently touring with Kanye for that gospel album that he just came out with. I mean, he's just a tremendous saxophone player. And he was with us with at U of H about like 15 years ago or so. So I had like just posted. I got a new dog, and I just posted a picture of him on Instagram. And Jordan's like, "Oh, he's so cute," and I was like, "Oh, I haven't spoken to this guy in a while." And so we just struck up the conversation. It was like, "How are you doing? How are you handling this whole thing?" And that's something we were also talking about too. Like, how are we dealing with this mess that we're in right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Jordan's answer was just kind of profound. He was just like, I'm just creating. It's been a great time for me to slow down and really get into what I enjoy, what I do. And then just realizing like who he's worked with and what he's done. I'm like, we're both musicians and we're both in the industry of music, but my God, our worlds are completely like they're just different. They cannot be more different. And so that's the thing. Like I was like, I guess expressing to you how we can both say we're in this industry or we're musicians or artists, whatever, but the worlds are just so different. And the things we face every day, the things we experience every day, the goals that we're after couldn't be more different. But it's great. It's great to have a diverse musical world. I think because not everybody's going to fit into one world. It's not one size fits all thing, which is one of the beautiful things about making music. I think.
Yeah.
So anyway, talking to Jordan was really eye opening. I mean, I know this is a Bonetown thing, but if you wanted,
oh no, yeah,
that would be a dude to talk to because the stories of people he worked with, stories he has, pretty insane. But yeah, I mean that was pretty much it. And then my thing with that was talking to a professional musician, like talking to Jordan, talking to you, people who actually like make money performing. As opposed to teaching, like primarily that's my right now. Those worlds are so far apart, and I really would want to like try to get so that's my thing. Like just and you mentioned something about just making possibilities more obvious to the students, like for what's available to them, because right now we just teach them how to quarter notes, eighth notes, good notes on your sound, how to breathe. That's great, all great stuff. But there's like a whole world of music out there that I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to say that we aren't, but I don't know if we are adequately as a field preparing them to encounter and preparing them to, or even making them aware of. Because you mentioned like it's just at the core of like is this classical training, and then outside of that is like kind of the jazz stuff. But there's so much more outside of that, which not a lot of people get to explore, or not a lot of people get to realize. And I think that's, if anything, as a music educator, I'm really pushing for people to get into those other parts of existence as far as the musical world is about.
Yeah. Yeah, because for those that are not musicians and are just fans and just are tuning in, basically in school when you're learning, it's usually just classical music, and if you're lucky enough, jazz is the next thing that is outside of the box.
Right. I'm glad you said if you're lucky enough, because jazz programming.
Yeah. I mean, like we were talking about, I had some really great teachers in high school. I was really lucky enough to have some great teachers. Shout out to Mr. Good and Mr. Adamchek. Um, but there is a maturity level that in high school that some have and some don't have. I definitely did not have that maturity level, but and that's what's hard about teaching too is having to deal with kids like that as well. But also encouraging them that there's more than just these basic kind of things. Classical can be boring, especially nowadays. There's everybody's listening to hip hop, rap, rock, whatever. And but the thing is, what they're trying to teach everybody in school is the fundamentals and the history of where music came from, and that's cool. But you also kind of have to spice it up to to get people engaged, and that's what I liked about marching band. Playing all these different songs, it was a breath of fresh air. You know what I mean? And then jazz was like a next step, and jazz is cool too. Like I was telling you, like I listen to jazz now. I'm matured enough to kind of appreciate jazz a little more. I've never been a jazz head, but there's other music that got me thinking like, oh, I can step outside of the box playing, ska or punk with a trombone, and I had no idea about it.
Right.
But I'm not saying that you don't have to bring all that into education, but like I feel like there's ways of showing like different types of genres of music that have horns, and that you can't do, like you were saying. Jordan plays with Kanye. Everybody loves Kanye, and everybody, and he has all these horn players.
Right. Well, everybody knows Kanye.
Yeah.
Knows Kanye,
Yeah, and but
right.
especially for but like what I'm saying is like younger kids, they're probably like, oh, that's awesome, and I'm like, yeah, you can do that too.
Right.
You just need to learn your fundamentals, and I know it's hard, to be that engaged at a young age, trying to make a living, or but you can start that practice. You know what I mean? And eventually it could lead you to somewhere else. And because like I was saying, I never thought I was going to be playing trombone, like as a full-time job or anything. And I regret not taking my fundamentals seriously. and which I'm still working on every day. And I have the luxury of now I have a lot of time to work on that. And speaking of having a lot of time, how would you go about teaching kids that are in school now? Well, not in school, but they're musicians. Like, how would you go about like helping doing like lessons and stuff like that? Would you do like lessons on Skype, or how would you get those kids like motivated to keep practicing?
Yeah. So I actually have a student right now that I'm working with online, and we just do Zoom lessons, and that's actually gone a lot better than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
With these lessons online with these kids right now, I'm really trying to get in their head about like how to think about music, especially with regard to the basics, like you talked about, like fundamentals. Like the student I'm talking about in particular has some issues. Like, he's a smart kid. It's just kind of he has some issues with rhythm and time and stuff. So just like kind of not really drilling, but really trying to like unpack some of the bad habits, because I mean, in middle school, there's not a lot of time that those directors are given to teach music, so a lot of it is taught by rote. And so when they look at a piece of paper with these notation on it, it's more of a reminder of what they were taught versus what they know to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so like I'm trying to work with this kid on just like how to figure out how to read notation, like what that means. So that's that part. But like overall, when I'm working with students, man, especially on trombone, I get them hooked on what is a good sound. Like, that's where we start. Because if you can't sound good on the instrument and it doesn't resonate with you, your horn, your ears, like, it's just like there's no point in moving on. And so we do spend a lot of time just obsessing on physically how to produce a good sound. And that is my way, really kind of like really kind of myself as a student, because it's like, it's almost like a responsibility that I've given to them. It's like, you're holding this instrument, and you can make this the most beautiful thing. You make the most beautiful sound with this instrument that, and it's up to you. It's completely up to you to do this. And so when they realize that's like, oh yeah, it is up to me. It's not just like my teacher saying, do this and blow here and make a vibration. No, it's what are you responding to with what sounds good? What do you feel sounds good? How does it feel? All that stuff. So we start there. We start with sound all the time, and then we build from there. Like articulations have to sound good. Style has to sound good. Connections between notes have to sound good. And so we're always starting with that fundamental principle of, does it sound good? And is it? I mean, I hate to almost sound dramatic, but is it beautiful? That's the word I do often use with my students, and that's like a Joe Dixon thing. That I don't know. You know Joe Dixon, right?
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
Pedagogue in the Texas area. And so yeah, that's. I mean, I hate to sound. I'm sounding so nerdy right now, but
that's
that's
cool.
Like how you get into it, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's just how. I mean, all my favorite teachers growing up, no matter what subject it was, they were nerds about their stuff because they were passionate about it. And so I figured out, I get to be a nerd about this, and that means I can do a good job. So I totally nerded out on music in that way, and specifically my instrument, how to get a good sound. Especially in college when I was learning the actual fundamentals. So anyways, going back to students, that's it. The fundamentals of, reading and notation and literacy, if you will, and then fundamentals of sound. And then we build on those two things to try to just build a framework of how to approach music and think about music, which is just, and I hate saying this, it's just one way to do it. There are a lot of people have different experiences with music, but that is just one way to approach it, and that is my approach, and that is something that but that's the field I've been in for so
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I have a question. So, and then
Sure.
I'm kind of going back. Sorry to backtrack, but you said you you started late playing trombone in 7th grade and whatnot, and there was a lot of like learning on your own. What kind of things, or how would you go about, learning on your own? Like, where did you? Because obviously, we didn't have all the YouTube shows and like we have now. But was there a lot of books that you would play with?
Loosen up that kind of thing. I use because my teachers like to get together and sound things. That doesn't always create the best sound. But, I was able to produce it. And just following that Essential Elements book got me to, learning how to read music really well and all that. But then, when I got to college is when I really started developing a routine. I took lessons with Mike Warney, who was my teacher then, and he, completely redid my embouchure, really worked on articulation. We worked on slide technique and stuff like that. And I loved working with him because he was able, again, and I think this is something that really sticks with me as a teacher, just bear it down to the fundamentals, like the bare bones of playing. And so, long tones I know people hate that.
Yeah.
First off, breathing. Breathing is huge. And then I did mouthpiece work, which primarily was just kind of, glissandi up and down. And articulating, depending on what repertoire I was working on, like working articulation exercises on mouthpiece primarily, and just really, again, going for beauty, or actually just going for what sounds really good, and then long tones on the instrument, and just how freely could I sit and take in a breath and just produce a sound with the least amount of tension possible,
Yeah.
And finding that balance, and then lip slurs, obviously that was the next thing after long tones, after some time with long tones. So let's say, maybe 2 or 3 minutes on breathing, 2 or 3 minutes on just mouthpiece stuff, about 5 minutes on long tones, about 5 minutes on lip slurs. And I interchange lip slurs and articulation studies. And then, so, maybe a 25 to 30 minute sort of warm up fundamentals sort of thing, and then go on to my repertoire, whatever I was working on at that time. So that was like when I really started to develop a routine, if you will. And there were times where I'd expand, that 30 minutes of just like, working on trombone.
Mm-hmm.
I'd expand that to maybe an hour, depending on like what I needed to do. But that was pretty much it. These days, like I could pick up a trombone and take about a few minutes and sound pretty good, sound pretty decent. It doesn't sound very long. I mean, it doesn't sound good for very long because I have band record chops like crazy. But like I cannot last, if you will. But I do kind of place that, the ability to just pick up a horn and sound okay, I place that at the feet of really investing in fundamentals, especially in my college years, for like a good year, just like really, really like setting that stuff in, ingraining that stuff into who I am as a musician and player. Mm-hmm. So, and that also helped with my teaching. And, I think, to your point, you said, you wish you had, when you were younger, spent more time, like, working. And, to some extent, I'm actually happy I didn't get lessons until later, because I was able, at an older age, to understand the pedagogy behind what I was doing.
Yeah.
And so that helped me, you know what I mean? Like, I was actually in it. I was living in it. And so that helped me to work with students and help, and like really help diagnose things and fix things, So, I kind of try to find the silver lining in some things. And some things like that, I mean, I never had any lessons, but it did really help instill some really great teaching points, in what I do.
Yeah, definitely. I feel the same way. I try not to like regret a lot of things, but definitely now that I have a different mentality, my mature level is way better than it was in high school. But yeah, I can appreciate it more. You know what I mean? I do understand it, and especially when we're on the road playing like every day, like 3 to 4 days a week, like back to back, and you start noticing certain things, and then you take into consideration what you were taught, not just from like high school and stuff, but from the little hangs I've had with other trombonists, and whenever I come back in town and stuff like that, and not just trombonists. I mean, I sit with John, our trumpet player, and he teaches me a lot as well. And but at the same time, I'm able to take things now, and like you were saying, like I can like know what's going on, diagnose things a little better because I'm in it,
Right.
Yeah.
Totally, man.
Yeah, and man, and that's the thing too. Is just like, being good on your like on your instrument, man. It's a lifelong thing, like a struggle you're gonna have. I feel like you're never gonna be satisfied. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's true.
Yeah, and
which is, it could be good and bad. I think it's good because it's just like this mountain that you'll never reach the pinnacle of, or the peak of. So you're always pushing towards something, but it's also frustrating,
Oh yeah, super frustrating.
It's good to have that.
You were saying too. You were talking about extending like your practicing. Like you were saying, you're able to extend it from like a certain amount of time and gradually go from like 15 to 30 minutes, and then 30 minutes to 45, and then to an hour. There was something I had listened to on a podcast, and I don't remember the professor's name, but I believe he was at Juilliard, and he kind of compared practicing and working out, athletics. No one would think athletics and musicianship would kind of be similar, but in ways it is. Well, from what he was talking about, I could kind of see that because, it's practicing is like working out. You know what I mean?
Right.
You want to do like a bench press, right? So you're going to start off with lightweight. And so, so if you're a musician, you know, to do long tones or to hold out a note for a certain amount of time, you know, you're only going to be able to keep that stream of air with a good pitch for a certain amount of time. But the longer that you keep every day, you go back to the gym and, like, you know, try to push yourself to keep that, you know, note steady and intonation, you know, good. You can start doing it slowly, longer and longer, just like if you're going to put more weight into, you know, lifting or something like that. I thought it was a pretty good comparison, especially, you know, that I started running, and, you know, at first you're not able to run a whole mile, you know, at first, but you kind of keep working on it every day. And yeah, take a break every now and then. And but I think it's the same thing with, you know, practicing and stuff like that, and just kind of, you know, practicing and going to your spot to practice is like going to the gym. You got to put in your work, or you're not going to get stronger, or, you know, whatever kind of goal that you set, you're not going to set it, you know. And but yeah, so I tell myself every time I go and I'm able to run a certain amount of time, I'm like, all right, now I got to go home and practice so I can, you know, get to where I want to be and stuff like that.
Yeah, totally. How much are you practicing these days?
Not enough.
Dude, same. Like, for me, like, as a conductor, if you will, you know, my thing, instead of, I've traded the trombone practice for score study, and preparing for rehearsals.
Mm-hmm.
You know, unfortunately, like, no bands are going to be meeting for the foreseeable future, you know?
Yeah.
So that is really kind of, that's kind of put a dent in my motivation, if you will. I'm not that motivated to look at a score these days.
Mm-hmm.
But I will tell you what I have been doing. I've kind of gone back to fundamentals, as just a musician, as a teacher, actually. I don't know, as more as a musician. So I'm doing, like, ear training stuff,
mm-hmm.
and like interval training, and just, like, trying to, like, play by ear, write by ear, you know, that sort of thing. Identify progression thing I'm working on right now. And also, you know, I think it's important, you know, for somebody who has to be in contact and engage with a lot of different sort of people to have, to just be able to speak intelligently on a lot of different things. So I've been reading a lot too, you know, so that's the thing I've been working on, those two things, and not just reading, like, you know, audiobooks and podcasts and stuff, just consuming as much as I can, so I can, like, you know, talk and connect with people. I mean, and also, I mean, things that are of interest to me, like, there are some really very nerdy things that I'm interested in and have nothing to do with music. But, you know, I just, you know, those are things I like to just, you know, reflect on and think about. And I'm hoping those things will kind of prime me for when I'm, you know, when we start getting back to normal, which I don't know if we'll ever really get back to normal. When we start getting back to the things that we do, for a living. So, you know, so when I start score study, I'll have hopefully a more me, more real, just something, approach that identifies and resonates with me. So anyway, so I've been really, like, paring it down, like, what things, like, at the core of me do I need to improve to be a better musician, and
mm-hmm.
not just a better musician, better person. A force of good in the universe, you know. So that's what I've been working on.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, you know, we'll talk. I'm going to finish asking a couple of music questions, and then we'll get back to those nerdy things.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, like, practicing. It's hard to be like, you know, I guess encouraged, or what's the word I'm trying to find. But yeah, like, trying to be, like, motivated. Yeah, and, like, because I mean, I've been mentally, this thing, like, this whole pandemic thing has kind of messed me up mentally a little bit, and playing my horn, it can, you know, it's real relaxing, and it kind of gets my mind off of things. But, you know, I try to stay away from social media and whatnot, and to not get all like freaked out. But practicing can be kind of hard for me sometimes, like the concentration. But I've been practicing like 15 minutes probably, and if I don't sound good, if I'm not sounding good the way I want to, I kind of just put my horn up. I'm like, I'm done. Like I'm not fighting it today.
That's good. I agree. Yeah. No, I think that's wise.
But yeah, I mean, what are you? Is there anything that you're working on, like musically, to kind of, I guess you could say that has inspired you during this whole pandemic kind of thing?
Yeah. So my teacher, he's the best. First off, I love him to death. And he has like gotten us. We meet twice a week, so we have like a Zoom seminar twice a week, and most of the time, I believe these past few times we've like met with composers and professional musicians and just been able to talk with people that we normally like. Joe Alessi, man, like he had us talking with Joe Alessi a few weeks ago, and that was so cool. Like, yeah, that like so it was just like the six of us, right, and Joe, and then he was like, hey, yeah, I'm working on this concerto that the New York Phil commissioned Chick Corea to do.
Dang.
You want to hear some of it?
Hell yeah!
And we're like, yes, and so he just of course he has his trombone like on call, right? And so he just pulls it up and starts playing. And my immediate question was, since it's for orchestra, would it be possible for someone to transcribe it for wind ensemble, and then you could play it, let's say with the UT wind ensemble the following year, so like stuff like that, like connections and networks, like talking with you, like talking with people that I normally wouldn't talk with, like that is the stuff that has kept me going, man. And I think finding a way, I mean, while we're separated right now, like physically, finding a way to stay connected with just those people who are just going after it. That's what I call it. You're just going after it. You're just trying to do the thing. There are people right now, and like Jordan's one of them. Like there are people who are just going after trying to do the thing, and I'll get very curious about like I'll wake up one day and just feel inspired to just like go. And then the next day not so much. So like just finding that I'm really working on trying to find a consistency, trying to find a balance for myself. And part of that is making a schedule.
Yeah.
And to go back to your question, like most of the people I know who are just like really producing, really getting stuff done, and that's because they want to do. Please don't get me wrong. I don't want to be like telling or preaching to your audience or anybody who's listening to this, like you should be doing something.
Yeah.
If you feel like you need this time to rest, take the time to rest. If that's what your soul, that's what your body, that's your mind is teaching, telling you, take that time. My mind is telling me I should be on something right now, like not on something, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Should be doing something.
Yeah.
On a project. And I have a lot of projects like kind of like going on right now. So, and I'm still in school. I think I told you this. I'm taking like a 19th century history class. So I got a paper. And speaking of nerdy, I made that topic as nerdy as possible. So I have a paper for that, and I have a project for analytical techniques, which is essentially just music theory and analyzing classical forms. So right now we're just doing sonata form and doing that. So. And which is, I didn't think I'd get into that, but I'm actually really into that. I really enjoy that. So, so those are like my two kind of required obligations, academic obligations. And then, the stuff on top of it is just kind of priming me again, like I said before, priming me to get ready for what's to come with, when school starts back up, I'm getting into writing. I'm trying to figure out this DAW. Like I have Logic Pro on my computer, trying to figure that out. I'm trying to venture into Cubase. Do you work with Cubase at all?
As far as like audio software, I don't know too much about it. Like I am learning now, but I just kind of know basic, very, very basic kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't think my knowledge, I don't know, maybe it will. It depends on how, because I can go deep into some stuff, but I don't think my knowledge is going to get to an expert level. You know what I mean? Like where I'm going to be paid to produce or anything. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you
We'll
never
see.
know.
We'll see. But just figuring out is half the fun. But just like messing with stuff, and I mean, and it's also half the frustration. And that's like Logic Pro. It's not as intuitive as one might think. When you think of kind of Apple produced software, but
Yeah.
it is. It's interesting. You can really go for what you want there, which I appreciate. So, again, like to kind of go back again to your question of like what is motivating me and what motivates me. It's conversations like this, once or twice a week, stuff like that, and that just kind of keeps me going, and I'm able to sit in a room by myself. Me, the very extremely extroverted person, which is why being a professional trombone player was not going to work for me, because I didn't, most of that is sitting in a room practicing by yourself.
Yeah.
Where I just, a lot of what I do, I love being with people. But I'm able to kind of, again, get that energy and sit in a room by myself and just like tinker and mess and think, and read and reflect. So that like actually the thing that's really pushing me is just like the consuming just interesting bits of data that will, and just interesting information and concepts that I think that aren't typically applied to what we do as musicians and teachers, and trying to see a way. So to kind of, I'm kind of going to jump the gun into a question you said you were going to ask about me being a nerd. Like I'm into like kind of amateur kind of physics and stuff like that. Like,
oh, cool.
There's like just really amateur stuff. Like the two primary these guys are fairly popular for physicists. Is it Brian Greene and oh shit, what's the other ones? He has a podcast called Mindscapes. But just like reading those things and like consuming that stuff, it's crazy how connected everything is.
Yeah.
And so when you actually get to realize that, it gives you a space and to kind of, because if everything's connected, you're able to come at it from a different way, in a different angle, and you start like thinking of problems and solving solutions in a different way. So that's what I've been doing, like just like consuming consuming things from other completely almost seemingly disparate sources, and that's a big one, science and physics and some math to some extent. But anyways, yeah, that stuff inspires me, because I think the future, like going forward, I think something that is going to kind of help us as a society and really help the human race, help the species, is how much can we come together to solve the problems that we have?
Exactly.
And not just solve the problems, but recognize what the actual problems are, because there are people that are making problems that aren't there, and people that aren't recognizing problems that are, so it's just like how much can we come together so we can have a more sort of unified vision on what the fuck to do moving forward, that is something I'm really invested in. And I think, and I mean, this is not at all, this hasn't been confirmed or anything, but I think that I can hopefully influence that by being a music educator somehow. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think somehow being a music educator, like for instance, like my student I was mentioning earlier, just getting them to think, too often we consume without thinking,
Yeah, definitely.
Like, you know what I mean? We just kind of like, oh, that's what it is. I mean, I don't want to go into any politics, because I think that's just a no, that's not.
Yeah.
It's a waste of time. Because both sides are screwed.
Oh yeah, definitely. I agree.
But yeah, that's I think is the thing we probably need to be focused on, especially in education, and to a more, I guess, more relevant extent, music education. Is getting students to think.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree. I mean, kids, like, there's a lot. I mean, they are the next generation. You know what I mean? And it takes us to influence them. You know what I mean? And as far as like bringing it up, not just the parents, but teachers as well. I mean, there's a bunch of teachers that that I can remember that and some of them I still talk to today that were a big influence on my life as far as being a good person. And yeah, learning about the things you need to learn to get by in life. That's awesome. But there's also things to show about loving one another, respecting one another, and that I feel like is it can be way more important than the educational, along with the educational side of it.
Sure.
But I mean, and that's another thing about teachers getting paid. I feel like teachers do a lot. No matter what you're teaching, it could be English, math, music, whatever. I mean, they're the ones that spend the most time with these kids every single day, and thank God for them.
Right. No, thank God for that. You're right. And I think, with this quarantine thing and people and parents rather being kind of forced into the role of teacher, they're starting to realize that. That's starting to become a very there is so much more that these teachers do than just give information. And there's so the responsibility that has been given to schools for just to raise kids. Man, it's grown. It's grown since schools were a thing. Have been a thing rather. And so now that we're in a place where the parents are actually having a lot of those responsibilities are coming back on them. I think I'm hoping this is not a great time that we're in, but I think there's some good things that are going to come out of it. And amongst the good things that'll come out of it is that the realization of what we ask or tax our educators to do and our educational systems to do. And then on top of that, are they doing the most effective job? Are they being very effective with that? And what can we do to reform that or change that? There's just there's a whole host of things that we've got to really consider with regard to this. But yeah, I agree. All that to say, long story short, I agree.
Yeah, and it's crazy because a lot of musicians that I talk to, majority of them, it's so cool to see that everybody's almost on the same wavelength as far as stuff like that. And I just wish everybody could kind of see everybody could see that.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it's gonna take some time, and and I'm hoping that there's like you were saying, there's some hopefully there will be some good that comes out of this, and it's been kind of I know a lot of people's been have been struggling and stuff like that, and but hopefully this will make everybody stronger. What have you been able to do to kind of keep yourself mentally and physically fresh, I guess you could say?
First off, I work out just about every day. That's a huge part of just staying. Obviously you got to stay healthy.
Yeah.
But I think and we talked about this, just the release of what is it, endorphins or dopamine? I don't even know, but just so there's something in your body that makes you feel good after you work out.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of the reasons why I do. I'm a part of this thing. I don't know if people listening would know. It's called Camp Gladiator, and it's basically, you just have a mat, some weights, and it's a lot of calisthenic sort of training. And I love it. I adore it. And then sometimes I'll go out for a run. I got a dog who is just out because we just went out for a long walk, and he's just he's passed out over here on the floor. But so that is super important to me, just staying healthy. And if I could make this is something I don't preach to people about, but this is something I will preach to people about. A big defense for, and I know you run, it's great. A big defense for this stuff is just keeping your body in check,
Yeah.
Because I think one of the huge factor for like people who are succumbing to this virus are, you know, the pre-existing conditions that they would have. I mean, age is a big one, and then on top of that is like the pre-existing conditions of like, you know, of weight and diabetes, or, you know, whatever, anything that's immunocompromised, anything that would be considered immunocompromised. And so that's something that I've been really doing. And like I said, I've been into podcasts and reading and things like that. And class is actually keeping me busy, way more busy than I anticipated. But, you know, I got to do that because, you know, it's a part of the game. I guess I have to play right now.
Yeah.
Being a student. Now, I will say this: there are a few shows that I've watched that I've like. I just love. I mean, I think one of them. I think, you know, Tiger King was like for a big thing for people for a second there.
Yeah.
I really watched like an episode and a half, and I couldn't really do it past that. I just couldn't do it past that. But I'm in Ozark.
Oh yeah. So.
Oh my God.
So I haven't seen it yet, but like we were saying, like I got so many recommendations for that show.
Oh, it is so good. It is so good, and like the show that it reminds me of is like Breaking Bad, kind of like that level of just storytelling and just the cinematography behind it, and the acting, of course, is just incredible. The writing is incredible because the story gets more and more tangled and more complex, and you know, I love that stuff. And there's even actually really good music, like the soundtrack behind it is really great.
Nice.
So that's a show. And then on the complete other side of the spectrum is Drunk History.
Nice.
I love that show. Have you watched that?
Yeah, I haven't, but I've seen a couple episodes while we're on the road. I don't have cable, but yeah, I've seen it, and it's really good. And I actually know my homie, shout out Quinn Carson, he's a trombone player in LA. He does the music for that.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. Okay. I'll have to. I'll send you his profile on Instagram.
Please do.
Yeah, he's super cool guy. Great trombonist. But yeah, I definitely have him on the list to be on this show as well. But yeah, I hear. Awesome. But I've seen a couple episodes of that, and it's so good.
It is really good, and you know I showed that to a friend actually just last night, and she was watching the Harriet Tubman version, which is hilarious, but it's also incredibly informative. And she's like, "How come I don't know this?" And it's just like you watch any of those stories, and it's just like you feel like, you know, you have your, you know, PhD in history after watching an episode, because it's just like these are stories, like I feel connected with these characters, with these people.
Yeah.
And that, you know, that got me thinking of like why, you know, I mean, why people hate history class. I mean, it's just because, you know, the connection, the actual like person isn't made real to them. Like they are, you know, I mean, very irreverently, I must say, but still, they're made real to them through Drunk History. And, you know, so anyway, so that show has really talk about inspiration and motivation. That show inspired me to like, that's how I'm going to approach my paper for this history class. So like, if I were writing a drunk history skit, you know, a drunk history show, like for real, because
that's awesome.
Like, I'm like, I'm actually going to do it, and I'm thinking I might actually write it. I don't know, we'll see. But like, just something that'll engage anybody who is, you know, interacting with it, or because my paper is on, it's on 19th century philosophy and how it kind of manifests in music. And so the two figures I chose were Nietzsche and Wagner. So, you know, already, I mean, anybody listening to that, it's like, but like, it's actually really interesting because like the concepts that Nietzsche was talking about, like he was way ahead of his time. And then Wagner, of course, I mean, we're still very much, I mean, as much of a freaking anti-Semite and Nazi he was, like, we're still very much influenced by him. As you know, Western music, art music is very much influenced by him. So, you know, like, just seeing how those two, and Nietzsche wrote like a damning like article on not just Wagner, but just like 19th century culture and music altogether. But I mean, he actually, the name of the book was Nietzsche versus Wagner. So anyways, so like trying to like pull the lessons from that and make that an interesting narrative. is what I plan on doing. That paper's due 2 weeks from yesterday, and I haven't started yet.
Oh shit!
But,
well, good luck.
okay.
I'm pulling for you.
Yeah, I mean, I've started the research part of it. Started the research part of it, but just like the actually like putting it together part is like whatever.
Yeah,
I'll get it. I'll figure it out. It's all good.
That's awesome. What kind of stuff are you reading?
Well, okay. So a friend sent me, and it's just sitting on my desk. A friend sent me this book, and I don't know, and it's interesting. It's by Glennon Doyle, and the thing is talking about how it kind of liberates you, like people, emotionally, spiritually, physically, and so far it's been an interesting read. I haven't read very much of it, but it's been an interesting read. So that's one of them. Mostly my reading right now is mostly academic.
Okay.
So it's primarily like the articles I have to read and stuff like that. But like podcasts, I do consume while I'm like working out or showering, taking a shower, taking a walk or whatever. And that is Sean Carroll's Mindscape is mostly what I'm into right now. And the Joe Rogan Experience, just because he's just so that guy. I mean, he's a little bit of a polarizing figure, but I think he's a meathead, but he's trying to figure stuff out. He's trying to figure it, so I enjoy that. I'm trying to think of what else. Russell Brand has an interesting podcast called Under the Skin,
mm-hmm.
And that's like almost spiritual, philosophical sort of thing. So you can kind of tell the sort of vein that I'm in. I'm very much like very cerebral, very spiritual kind of thinking and stuff. I mean that just resonates with me.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I dig that.
Yeah. Musically, I'm all over the place musically. I mean, I can listen. I love all types of music. I just love music that's well done.
Yeah.
So like 2 weeks ago, there was a battle on Instagram with oh my god, it was so great. It was T-Pain and Lil Jon.
Mm-hmm.
They had a track battle and they were just all playing all their hits from like the 2000s.
Yeah.
And like from up until like really from 2000s to now. And like stuff like that I can get into because it's just so well produced, and it's like it's what that music is there for is make you dance and make you feel good.
Yeah.
Job, check and check. I love that stuff. And so, I wouldn't say that's older hip hop, but I mean those guys are really kind of established hip hop figures, and I do appreciate them. As far as like the newer guys that are out like hip hop, oh my god, does Kendrick count as new?
I love Kendrick.
I love Kanye. Yeah.
I love Kendrick.
I love Kanye. And I mean, you mentioned before, like, everybody loved Kanye. Again, he's one of those polarizing figures. Like, he said some things recently, you're just like, oh, I get behind that.
Yeah.
But, like, musically, man's a genius.
Yeah.
He's got one of the best production teams, like, in the world right now,
Mm-hmm.
So, like, musically, he's doing some pretty, I think, innovative things. So I like that stuff. Jazz-wise, I've listened to all the greats. Like my favorite pianist all time is Bill Evans. That's my guy. My favorite jazz trombonist is JJ.
Obviously. I love that dude. Yeah.
Yeah, man. He's what's up. And then you have like not the newer ones, but I guess more sort of the contemporary important ones like Conrad Herwig and Andy Martin and I'm trying to think of who else. Wycliffe. I mean, in Houston is Andre.
Yeah, Andre's a man.
It worked,
yeah.
I'm trying to think of what else. Like, so there's a group that I've been listening to called Kendrick Scott Oracle,
mm-hmm.
and it's he's a New York-based drummer, and he's from Houston actually. His name is Kendrick Scott, and so he's like from the same vein of like a Robert Glasper,
yeah,
you know what I mean, a Jason Moran, those guys, like the Houston cats like went to PBA who made it in New York, so like that I've been listening to that. Corey Henry,
mm-hmm.
who's a keyboardist who was a keyboardist for Snarky Puppy, and now doing his own thing with his the Funk Apostles.
Yeah.
Like classical kind of stuff. I mean, anywhere from Bartok to Beethoven to Mozart to Stravinsky. The newer guys like a John Adams, Philip Glass. There's an even newer guy, Adam Schoenberg, who I'm into. So it's not like I'm not limited to genres. It's just like what's good and like are they going for it? And you can usually tell if like somebody's going for it.
Yeah.
That's what I say. That's my term for that. Like if they're really trying, they're not just trying to like crank out BS. It's like what resonates with them as a human being, as a musician, as an artist. Are they really trying to manifest that musically? That's what I'm just interested in that. So I mean that that I think transcends genre or artist or person. It's just like who's going for it.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
I dig it.
You didn't ask about music, but that.
Oh no, that's good. Yeah, I mean, I was gonna get there.
Yeah, the newest Fiona Apple's new album is so good.
What?
That's somebody who's going for it. Like that's somebody who's going for it. Yeah, have you listened to it?
No, I haven't heard it yet.
Check. No, check it out.
I'm gonna write down.
It's really good. Check it out. Fiona Apple. Yeah. I mean, she kind of made a splash with that one because I don't think she's released an album in some time. But that is good. That's good music. That's good music, and it's really unconventional and just different and weird. But I'm all about that.
Yeah, same.
She's really trying to find her voice. She's trying to find her voice. So, yeah, I think that's it. Like there are times we talk about this. There are times where the weight of what we're experiencing really kind of just like kind of closes in.
Yeah.
And at times I'll push back at that and be like, nope, not right now because I have shit to do. But there are times I let it kind of crush me and break me a little bit because there's some stuff that needs to be crushed and broken rather. So it's. I don't know, man. This is a weird time, but ultimately, I think we're gonna get some really great things that come out of this.
I think so too.
I'm very optimistic, but that's me by nature. I'm just a eternal optimist. But I think there's reasons to be. Because there are really some. Like the creative projects that I've seen come out of people in the past 4 to 5 weeks have been insane, absolutely insane. So I mean, if that's an indicator of what's to come, then I'm all about it.
Yeah,
I'm all about it. It's really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Ogechi, I think it's about that time, and
it's about that time.
Yeah, but man, I so appreciate you coming on. We had some really great things to talk about. But we need to do this again. I'm definitely gonna and definitely just talk on outside of the podcast as well. Right. And I can't wait to. I don't know. I just can't wait to everything to get back to normal and see you in person. Give you a big old hug.
Yeah, man.
But
all about it. But as soon as that's the first class I'm going after this is all done, I'm going to Houston.
Yes, H-Town.
H-Town.
Oh, one thing before we go. Let's talk about Bonetown just in general because people are all like, dude, how the hell did you get that name? Or they go, so they don't understand that when we're at U of H, they call it, in the trombone section, it was just called Bonetown, right?
Right.
Who made that name up and how did it come about? Do you remember?
Oh, I don't want to credit. I was there when it was made.
Okay.
I don't want to credit anybody in particular. I want to say it's a mixture of, I don't know if you remember these names, Joel Wren, Lance Laster, Ken Moses, those people.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
And I think that's where Bonetown, the legend of Bonetown came to be. Because we were a pretty tight section for, however many trombone players there were.
Yeah.
That from however many majors we kind of covered in our section. We were pretty tight. And that was fun. We're the section that did the train. I think we're the first trombone section that made that train, cheer or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is so cool. I mean, I can't tell you how many schools, because a lot of those members of that section went out to be band directors, and of course they taught their trombone players how to do it.
That's awesome.
Some of those trombone players went to be band directors, and they taught. So it's spread it. The whole train thing is spread like a virus across the country. So anyways, so Bonetown it's a cool thing, and I'm happy. I'm proud to be a part of that. I'm proud to be a part of just something that's just so. I'm not going to go so far as to say it was wholesome.
Yeah.
Because there was definitely some.
Yeah.
We're talking about college trombone players, but it was like definitely positive. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah.
We just want to have fun and play our instruments well, and play them as loud as possible, and it was just fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Legend of Bonetown, like that started, 16, 17 years ago.
Yeah. Dang, that's crazy.
Yeah, isn't it?
Oh man, time flies.
It really does. It seems like yesterday. It seems like yesterday and 100 years ago, all at the same time.
Yeah.
Strangely enough, because it's just like, man, I'm already here from that time, but there's so much that has happened between that, that has gone with me. So it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, Ogechi, thank you for clearing that up so everybody knows what's up.
Glad to do it.
Yeah. Well, thank you again so much for being on the podcast, and we'll definitely have to link up, like I said, and we'll have to do another one. So, to see how you're doing and checking in on you and everything. So, but yeah, I appreciate it so much.
I'll bring my trombone and we can probably do some duets or something.
Yeah, that'd be tight. I'll have to work on my fundamentals first, and then we'll get down to it.
Hey, me too.
High five. All right. Well, you take care. Until next time.
Yeah, you too, man.
Bye.
Next time, man. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. That was an awesome hang. It was good to see Ogechi. I hadn't seen her in years. It was great to talk to her. Sorry I haven't got to read everybody's comments. Hey everybody. I was able to fix some things on the fly, but that's how we do here. Rock and roll, baby. I got one more ad from Goose, my homie Gustavo at Gooseworks. Right now he is doing a fundraiser for all the Houston musicians right now. Fundraiser for H-Town. He's selling these t-shirts that say Houston United. Right now, if you go to his website at gooseworksart.com, if you look for the tab that says COVID-19 fundraiser, you'll be able to see the shirt there. The shirts are $20. 50% of the proceeds are going to the Houston Art Alliance to help, for all the musicians that have signed up for money to pay their bills, to get fed, keep the roof over their heads, and another 50% goes to Goose just to make the shirts. But it's a really good thing he's doing. The shirts look tight. But yeah, just go to gooseworksart.com and click the tab that says COVID-19. He's also doing the same for the Houston restaurant industry as well. So there's 2 shirts there that you can choose from. And I really, like I said, guys, thank y'all so much for coming in, checking it out, and supporting. Next week, I'm going to go ahead and announce our next guest is my homie Aaron. I'll have some more info and everything on our social media about our next guest. And till then, I'll be signing off. And I appreciate everybody. Until next time, see y'all.